I think it's a good time now to work on the signatures for our journal, and it will have two signatures. Each one of them will be attached to the narrow spines on the cover. I have built my signatures already. Each one of the Victoria Designs paper collections includes 24 journaling pages designs, and I have printed all 24 of them on both sides of the papers. So in total, I have 12 printed on both sides pages. In each one of the signatures, I will only have 6 of those double-sided pages mixed with additional tea-dyed papers. If you want, you can add more papers to these signatures, like book pages or different receipts, maybe envelopes, maybe some more die cuts, whatever your heart desires. But mine are going to have only tea-dyed papers and the printed ones. To make the tea-dyed papers less boring, I already stenciled on all of them and stamped. I had to go through the stash of my stamps and try to find some with the animals. I found out that I didn't have a lot of those, so I stamped where I could, and then in other places I just used some not very attached to a certain theme stamps with some letters, or just postage stamps, some insects, and so on. That's the signatures. Now for attaching the signatures, we're going to poke the holes in each one of those spines, as I mentioned before, and I think I will go with 3 holes pamphlet stitch. I think it will be enough for holding the amount of pages that I have right here. We need to decide where the holes will be. If my page is 8.5 inches tall, the central hole will be at 4.25, and then I think I want to have 2 more holes 3/4 of an inch away from the top and the bottom. So I'm going to mark them here. Now I want to mark them on the front of the cover rather than on the inside, because I can better see where the middle on that spine will be. And I will just mark with a little dot the future place for poking the holes. I will also need to poke them in the signatures, so I will need to measure once again on the inside of the page where those holes need to be. Use the clips for holding my pages together, and then just poke the holes like that. You're going to use 3-hole pamphlet stitch in order to attach your signature to the spine on this side, and I will follow the same steps and attach my second signature to the second spine on this side of the cover. Both of my signatures are now attached to the spines, and I will have fun with embellishing the pages of each one of the signatures off camera. I have all of my elements already pre-cut. I want to say a few words about embellishing the cover. I have prepared this element, which consists of some of the cut out elements from the paper collection. There are two of the swirls. There is this label with the forest and a little circle with the squirrel, as well as the leaf with the butterfly. The frame itself was created with the help of an oval die that I had in my stash. You are welcome to use any other shape. I have just added a piece of acetate to the window and put one of the cut apart elements with this deer inside that window. The numbers that you see here are the pieces that I just didn't want to throw away, and they are the parts of that die cut that I created for these pockets. They're so tiny and so delicate that I was happy to enclose them behind the piece of acetate. I can be sure that they're not going to fall off, and I think they add more interest to the frame itself. So I'm just going to glue this whole thing down to the front of my journal and work on the rest of the signatures pages. I also want to add an eyelet here and maybe add some charms or some beads to the threads that I'm going to use here. And it will also be easier to pull the journal by that whole tassel of beads and charms and take it out of the compartment where it will be stored. Now that our fourth journal for the junk journaling station is complete, let's work on the pencil holder. We will need a few pieces of medium weight chipboard for making it. And the first piece that will be used for the bottom is going to measure 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. You will also need 2 additional pieces that will measure 3 1/4 by 4 inches, and 2 more that will measure 3 3/8 by 4 inches. And I'm going to begin with attaching 2 of the side panels, which are 3 1/4 by 4, to the bottom square piece. And for doing that, I will first of all need 2 hinges, 2 paper hinges. I use craft cardstock for those, and this pair of hinges measures 3 1/4 inch long by 1 inch wide. As you can see, the hinge is scored down the center, and I'm going to use liquid glue for adhering my hinges to the chipboard pieces. You are welcome to use double-sided squirt tape. I just like to use glue, and as you have seen, I have applied glue for now only to 1/2 of the hinge, and then I'm gluing the hinge down by that half to the chipboard piece, making sure that I can still fold the second half of the hinge at a straight angle. I will do the same on the opposite side of the square chipboard base. We have both of these pieces right here. We're going to apply glue to this section of the hinge on each one of the sides, and we will then hold the chipboard piece at a straight angle and right next to the square piece of chipboard, and we will fold the hinge from this side and adhere it to the future wall of our pencil holder. Let's do the same on the opposite side with the second hinge. The same thing. I will attach this panel right next to the square piece, hold it, and glue down the hinge. And then once the glue is set, I can unfold. We will need 4 additional hinges that will again measure 3 1/4 by 1 inch. They're folded down the center, and I didn't mention the previous time when I glued these hinges down that I went ahead and trimmed the corners. This will eliminate the paper bulk in the corners as we continue working on this project. So right now I will apply glue to 1/2 of each one of those hinges and glue them down flush with the edges of the square central chipboard piece, like that. Just make sure that there are no overhangings, and when you fold the piece to the other side, you don't see the hinge. We'll do that on all 4 sides, like so. We have all of our hinges glued down to the central square piece of chipboard. And now I am going to use the double-sided tape for the remaining halves of the hinges. It will be easier to glue them down to the side panels later on. Next, I'm going to work with the remaining 2 panels. I will need 2 hinges that will measure 3 3/8 of an inch long by 1 inch wide. They will be scored as usual down the center, and they will have snipped off corners. And I'm going to glue them down right here. So again, I will just apply glue now to the inside of the hinge, to only 1/2 of it, and then I will attach the hinge to the chipboard piece up to the fold. I'll do the same on this one. Don't forget to burnish. And now we are ready to attach these to the square base of our future pencil holder. And you will actually see where exactly you need to put them, because this piece, the one that I have in my right hand, will later on cover the previous 2. And in the assembled state, this will look like so. Look at the corners. This is the wider piece and this is the narrower piece. I'm going to apply glue to this part of the hinge, and while keeping this chipboard piece at a straight angle on the surface, I will add my ready-made piece from before to it, and make sure that I line up the corners of the chipboard pieces here at the top and at the bottom with the corners of the pieces that have been glued down to the square piece in the center. And now I'll do the same from this side. We'll need another piece of craft cardstock for matting the bottom section of our pencil holder from the outside, and this piece is going to measure 3 1/8 by 3 1/8. I'm going to glue it down. If you are going to use for the feet of your pencil holder any type of brads, you will need to poke the holes now in each one of the corners, set the brads in, and only then take another piece of pattern paper this time, and that's the pattern that I chose. This piece also measures 3 1/8 by 3 1/8. So once you will have your breads in place, you will then cover this inside area of your pencil holder with a piece of pattern paper. If you're not going to poke any holes, and you will, like me, just glue the feet to the box, you can glue the pattern paper piece down right now. Next, I'm going to need 4 hinges that will be 4 inches long, and I will glue a pair of those to the sides of the panels, which are 3 3/8 of an inch wide. I'm going to add the liquid glue to 1/2 of the hinge. Do the same on the opposite side of the panel. And we'll do the same on the edges of this opposite panel, like so. Now on the remaining halves of the hinges, I will apply double-sided tape. Now we are ready to do some assembling of all the panels that we have created. We'll start by removing the backing from each one of the hinges, which are attached to the square center, and then we will burnish to make sure that everything is glued down nicely there. Now you can see that when I lift the side panel with the hinges attached to it, it kind of already sets in place, and the edge of this panel on my left hand side already covers the panel that we have just lifted, and that's what we need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the backing from this hinge, and then while I form a straight corner here between both of the panels, I will hold it with my finger and I will glue down the hinge on this side like that. And now I can remove the backing from the side hinge here, and still making sure that I have a straight angle, I can attach that paper piece to the first panel of our pencil holder. Now we'll do the same here and here. Our corners look nice. Let's just burnish better all of the hinges. Next, I will need 4 hinges to reinforce the inside corners of my future pencil holder. And these hinges will be just a tiny bit shorter than 4 inches long. As you can see, they're maybe 1/16 of an inch shorter. In centimeters, it will be 10 centimeters exactly. So I want this step to be less messy, so I decided to use the double-sided tape. I will remove the backing from the hinge, and then I will add just a line of glue to the very corner before adhering this hinge down. Make sure that you land this hinge exactly in the corner, and since you have the glue there, it will help you wiggle it a little bit and put it in the correct place, exactly where it needs to be. Okay, there is a little bit of glue oozing there. It will dry clear, so I'm not worried about that. Let's keep on working the same way on the 3 remaining corners. And it's done. All 4 of them are set in place. I will need 2 additional hinges, which will be 3¼ inch wide, like these panels, but I'm going to glue them down on top of the edges of the panels, which are 3 3/8. So I will cover the raw edges of the chipboard here on top with these hinges, and you're welcome to use either your double-sided tape again or the liquid glue. I usually apply the glue only to 1/2 of the hinge, and I make sure that I'm able to line it up between the side panels. Let's make sure that we burnish, and then I unfold the second half of the hinge, apply a bit of glue to the very edge of the chipboard itself, and then to the second half of the hinge, and I glue it down while burnishing on the very top, and then folding it in and burnishing on the inside. This way you will have a super nice looking edge. Let's do the same on the opposite side. This is a 3 3/8 inch wide panel. And what's left is only to cover the edges of the 2 remaining panels. For that we will need 2 hinges, which measure 3 and, as you can see, slightly more than 3/8. You see that? Maybe 1/16 of an inch more than 3 3/8. So that's what I'm going to do. I will prepare 2 hinges that will measure that long. And of course you will score them down the center and trim the corners. And I will glue them down now the same way I did before, with only one difference. So let's just start with applying the glue to 1/2 of the hinge and making sure that we do our best to cover the corners like so. Okay, and now when you fold the hinge in, you will see that maybe in the corners here you will need to trim a little bit more to make sure that the hinge fits better inside the box. But you don't want to cut very close to the corners themselves. Now I think it's fine. It fits inside. It does cover the corners of the chipboard, and I think I can now take the glue and, just as before, add a bit of it to the very edge of the chipboard and then to the rest of the paper hinge. Burnish while gluing the paper down and fold it in and burnish again. Now let's do the same on the opposite side, like so. Now it might be a good time to distress all the visible edges of your pencil holder. Let's mat the inside panels of our pencil holder. I have here 2 pattern paper pieces. that measure 3 inches by 3¼ and I'm going to glue them down inside to the panels which are wider. When gluing it down, I will just make sure that I leave sort of equal borders on the left and the right hand side, as well as about 1/8 of an inch here close to the top edge, just like so. And then for the remaining 2 inside panels, you will need to get 2 more pattern papers, 3 1/8 by 3 3/4. These are the patterns that I chose, and you glue them down the same way. And on the inside, we have our pencil holder fully covered with the pattern paper. Let's now cover it with the beautiful pattern paper from the collection on the outside as well. These papers will have all 4 of them to measure 3 1/4 by 3 7/8. And I must say I had to play with the papers a little bit and try to cut them from different sections of different patterned sheets, so that I could cut the most part of each one of the animals. And for example, here I really wanted to have a giraffe, but then I thought that I wanted to have a zebra. But if I cut the zebra as my focal point on this paper piece, then the giraffe would not have the head, and I decided not to go in that direction. So that's why my giraffe only has the head and doesn't have the body, and I will maybe use the zebra somewhere else. So now let's glue all of the papers down to our panels, and I will get back to you. This is how it looks like. Very simple, but so beautiful because of the papers. They're so gorgeous. I was going to use my super glue and these little feet for gluing them down to the corners of the box, but turned out that the corners of the box were too perfect for the feet, because look, it's just, if I attach it tightly to the side of the box on the left hand side, then there it just sticks out. So I decided not to use those feet. I found these ones, and I thought that, especially with the image of the lion here, it could look nice. So I will go ahead and use this set of the feet that I happened to have in my stash as well. I purchased these quite a while ago, so I don't think that I can provide you with any links. They were ordered from AliExpress. I think that you might find either the same feet or maybe something similar today. Try searching on Amazon as well. If you don't want to invest in these, you can also use some type of wooden chips of any shape. I happen to have these cute little flowers. I'm going to glue the feet down now and then get back to you again. This is how the pencil holder looks like now. If you want to preserve it for longer and make sure that it doesn't get dirty from the pens and pencils that you're going to keep inside, I recommend to cut a piece of acetate, and this one is 3 1/8 by 3 1/8, and just put it inside and maybe change it from time to time if it gets dirty. Our big project of the junk journaling station and all the journals and different pieces that went inside is complete. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you were able to follow along if you did and you have, just like me, a full set of the journals now ready, please share those with us, with me, and with Tina from Victoria Designs on social media. Tag us. We would love to see what you made. Talk to you soon. Bye.